This is a traditional Slovenian wedding. With the joyful sound of the accordion, the bride, in a white dress, walks into Ljubljana Castle in the company of the groom. This 11th century castle creates a solemn atmosphere for the wedding. Couples must vow to each other everlasting love in the most traditional way. This is why the Ljubljana Castle is the favorite choice for Slovenian couples. The castle offers a breathtaking view of Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia. The name means beloved in Slovene. The Old Town area showcases its long history. The pub street, however, has a vigorous vibe to it. Architecture of various styles adds rich colors to the city. That is why Ljubljana is the beloved place of its people. The Ljubljana City Museum stands as the oldest and most authoritative narrator of Slovenia's history. Built in the Middle Ages, this museum has become the reservoir of the collective memory of Slovenians through the changes of time. In 2001, the municipal government wanted to expand the museum, looking for an architect who truly understood the soul of the city. Bespela Vlisnik from Office Architecte finally gained favor with the government. She was an outstanding architect, but more importantly, she and her family had witnessed and experienced the history of the city. Her feelings for Ljubljana were ever more convincing than any well-drawn designs. Only someone like her, who would look at this city with affectionate eyes, could preserve people's memories of their own city.
So here we are in the cellar. Here you can see the cafeteria, which is done on original floor of the Middle Ages. And here on top you can see the floor of today's Ljubljana. This here is original road from Roman time. Ljubljana also was a Roman city. It was an army city at that time called Emona.
With the development of the project, the previously buried history of Ljubljana gradually reappeared. The earliest inhabitants in this area can be traced to 7,000 years ago. In 3900 BC, they built log cabins along the river and lived by hunting and planting. In 15 AD, the Roman Empire founded the Ammonia colony. In the 6th century, the Slovenians of the Slavic people arrived in the area. From the 14th century until 1918, Ljubljana was ruled by the House of Habsburg. The rich historical heritage of the city gave Spela great inspiration. She didn't merely follow the original style of the museum, but built on the former open square a 3-layered spiral walkway.
So our idea is, as the layers of the history go and arise, we establish a kind of spiral which actually represent also a walk of the visitor. So the visitor starts the visit to know the city and to see the museum here in the prehistory.
This spiral walkway, made of concrete and glass, is like a passage into the depth of history, leading visitors to Ljubljana's past. All its splendid moments are revived and represented on the weathered and dilapidated buildings in such a unique way.
After it was built, this project was published a lot in national and international newspapers, both only for architecture but also kind of lifestyle magazine. Even now, after 10 years it was opened, this place is still alive, especially in summer nights when you come here. People enjoy the external area. Kids run around this ramp, they lie on the floor, sit on the floor, etc. So for us, actually, this matters the most.
As far as Spela can remember, museums are not the only places to know the history of the city. There are monumental buildings everywhere. The Ljubljana Castle, built in the Roman era, was the birthplace of the whole city. It was used as a defense outpost. After the 16th century, residential communities gradually formed around the castle. Until the 18th century, warfare that had long burdened this small city gradually ended. Its function as the defense outpost became unnecessary. A municipal building and a Baroque-styled church were built in Ljubljana. The expansion of the city propelled the development of the local economy. Ljubljana became the trade center among neighboring regions. In 1849, the first railway to Vienna was opened. Ljubljana became Slovenia's cultural center. Every weekend, Spela comes to the castle, indulging herself in the angelic singing, as well as in recalling the city's past. Walking in Ljubljana, one gets the feeling of reading the city's history book, written by its varied architecture. The Old Town, which includes the church, town hall, and other old buildings, is the most unique area in Ljubljana. Throughout its history, over 30 bridges were built along the Ljubljana River, for which the city is also hailed as the Bridge City. The most unique landmark is the Dragon Bridge. Built in 1901, it was the first bridge made of reinforced concrete in Ljubljana. The four corners were decorated with dragons made of copper. It is said that although unattractive in appearance, the dragons help protect the city from enemy intrusions. The bridge has become a symbol of the city. The city square, commercial district, and the opera house are all in the New Town area. They mostly represent the architectural styles from the Austro-Hungarian Empire to the early 20th century. Buildings from different times and of varied styles blend with each other very well. History and reality, tradition and creatively are cohesively combined. This is attributed to the legendary architect Jože Plečnik. Plečnik was born into a common craftsman family in Ljubljana in 1872. Because of his strong interest in traditional architecture, life opened a new path for a kid who was supposed to inherit his father's career. Plečnik traveled around Europe. With an open mind, he absorbed different cultures from the time of ancient Greece and Rome to the Renaissance and Baroque periods. Such experiences contributed to his own diverse and comprehensive style. No matter how far he traveled, his hometown, Ljubljana, was always on Plečnik's mind. When he came back, however, he only saw a dilapidated city ruined by the earthquake. Plešnik knew that architecture was more than just a building. It carried the way that people of each nation sought their own identity and cultural independence. For retrieving home memories, he undertook the reconstruction project from the mayor. For him, it wasn't a mere job offer. He wanted to resort to the national characteristics of architecture in order to help his people identify with Slovenian culture. So he utilized traditional elements of local buildings in the reconstruction of Ljubljana. In his most familiar architectural language, Plešnik spoke of his heartfelt nostalgia for his own city. At the same time, he adopted ideas of different architectural styles in his designing. Thus, the restored city put on an all-embracing new look.
Also, he was capable with a very low budget to do very elegant and major kind of interventions, which you can still see today in the city. So for me, he was really a kind of idol in some way.
In today's Ljubljana, from the general city plan to a small street's direction, everything is marked with Plešnik's design. The triple bridge at the city center was one of his masterpieces. Built in 1842, it had been an old stone bridge. In 1931, Plešnik launched its renovation project. He supplemented 2 more girders to solve the traffic congestion problem without disturbing the original style. Even today, the triple bridge remains one of the architectural gems of Ljubljana. Plešnik once called Ljubljana the small Athens in Central Europe. He felt in every corner of this city the power of ideas, arts, and designs. Although half a century apart, Spela's architectural philosophy and understanding of the city is stunningly similar to Plešnik's. Both paid close attention to the relationship between the city and its people.
Actually, Ljubljana was not a very big city in the history, so it doesn't have this tradition of city people. Most of people, also my parents, my grandmother, she comes from a countryside. So basically, if you go around on Saturday and Sunday, mostly you see tourists, and all the Ljubljana citizens, they go outside to the nature. So basically, it's very well connected with nature, and this is for us Ljubljana citizens also very important.
A small town in the countryside, Kamnik is a good spot to trace the country's tradition and to reconnect oneself with nature. Each year on the second weekend of September, the conventional Slovenian National Costumes Festival is held here. For tourists, it offers a good opportunity to get an idea of Slovenia's history and culture. The folk costumes of various styles are the best narrator of the local culture, and the fully dressed-up parade unfolds the intrinsic characteristics of Slovenian people. Visitors to Kamnik can also walk into many private museums scattered across town. The museums boast the most vivid records of history. 97-year-old Josip Sadnikar owns one such private museum, the history of which exceeds his own age. These 2 rooms of less than 150 square meters house more than 1,000 specimens collected by 3 generations of the Sadnikar family. From German statues to Arabian candlesticks, from paintings of Renaissance Italy to porcelain from China, it's a tradition for the Sadnikars to cherish and collect cultural relics. This small private museum opens a window for us to peep into the long history of human civilization. It also enriches the cultural life of Kamnik and adds to its unique charm. In fact, the Sadnikar Museum is regarded as a local cultural monument. Among all of Mr. Sadnikar's visitors, Mr. Chen Xiaowei and his wife Ji Aifun are very special. The couple was the first Chinese family to settle in Kamnik. They got to know Mr. Sadnikar at their restaurant. For Mr. Sadnikar, the Chen couple, who visit him often, are not foreigners, but dear neighbors. Early every morning, Chen Xiaowei drives to the local vegetable market to select food ingredients. The vendors know him well, as he is the owner of a Chinese restaurant. They chat like old friends, talking about whether the vegetables are fresh today. When he gets back, his restaurant, called Hong Kong, has already opened. His wife, Ji Aifun, is talking fluently in Slovenian with customers. 15 years ago, when they arrived from China, they could speak no Slovenian. Ji Aifun started working at a local restaurant. It wasn't easy for her to communicate with customers, but the locals were very nice to this young Chinese woman. Their kind smiles encouraged her to settle down in this forgiving and generous city. In 1997, Ji and her husband Chen rented a small store in Kamnik and opened the first Chinese restaurant in town. They chose the Chinese National Day as the launch day. Red Chinese lanterns were hung at the door, sparking much interest among locals. The main chef was from the same city as Ji and Chen. They brought traditional Chinese cuisine to their Slovenian customers. Nowadays, this Chinese-flavored restaurant has become an integral part of Kamnik. The locals have not only fallen in love with Chinese food, but have also befriended this Chinese couple.
在这个 Kamnik 我有很多的客人，都是客人现在就觉得好朋友了，像一家人一样。
Dober občutek. Mislim, da smo prijatelji, dobri, da sta poštena, pa da sta zanesljiva, pa prijazna, pa dobra človeka.
Chen Xiaowei's family is not the only successful case. Not far away in the capital, Ljubljana, similar stories are told. Down through history, parts of Slovenia were occupied by adjacent European regimes. It somehow enabled various cultures to converge here and prosper together. History seemed to favor Ljubljana particularly. The vicissitudes of the 20th century didn't disturb the quiet sweetness of this city. During the federal Yugoslavia period, Slovenia was the richest among all 6 republics. After the death of Yugoslavian President Tito, the Slovenian government launched a series of political and economic reforms. In 1991, Slovenia officially declared independence from the Federation. It later became a member of the European Union.
So Ljubljana of my childhood and teenage areas was different than now. Of course, we were before 20 years ago, let's say, in a different system and in different country when we were Yugoslavia at that time. So it was, of course, very much different than it.
In 2008, Spela designed the Tetris apartments for local young families. The project was part of the modern area construction in Ljubljana. The apartment block is a social unit and was later sold to the Slovenian Housing Fund. The project aimed to help local young families to buy high-quality homes for low prices. Spela was well aware of what a cozy home meant for young couples. Despite limited budget, she wished that through her design, young couples of Ljubljana could enjoy a quality city life.
We believe that people here in Ljubljana like to live externally as well. Like before I mentioned, they all come mostly from the countryside, so everyone dreams about having a house with a garden, so we offer them at least a balcony in the loggia to somehow enjoy this external space as well.
These balconies with a view bring the most comfort to the Tetris apartment inhabitants. They can stand here to appreciate the city scene, as well as to feel the vibe of Ljubljana. Designing is no longer about the combination of architectural materials. As an architect, Spela tried to understand human needs and infuse into her design humanistic connotation. Now, this 90 square meter space contains the atmosphere of a home and the warmth of love.
I would like that we would have opportunity to make beautiful buildings as well. So for me, a good quality is still that architecture within the city is integrated in the city pattern, and I hope it will stay like that.
On the weekend, like most Ljubljana families, Spela takes her kids to the family villa in the countryside. She enjoys such leisure. She believes that her work as an architect will provide more and more of her fellow folks with such cozy space filled with love. Despite living in a foreign land, Chen Xiaowei's family has maintained the traditional Chinese lifestyle. Every day when the restaurant closes, the 3 generations of Chen Xiaowei's family sit together for dinner. It's their sweetest family time. Despite their different nationalities, cultural backgrounds, and ideals, Spela and the Chen couple do share one thing in common. Like many Slovenians, they enjoy quietly looking at their beloved Ljubljana in their leisure time. On the map of the world, Slovenia, with its 20,000 square kilometer territory and 2 million population, isn't so visible. But if you step onto its land and walk through the scenes of snowy mountains, lakes, star-studded karst caves, and cities with a nostalgic touch, you will know that this country is open to anyone who is willing to understand its long history and splendid culture. From the underground caves in Ljubljana and the heaven-on-earth Lake Bled, to the historical city of Ljubljana and naturalistic Kamnik, a unique cultural vibration is felt on all of Slovenia's land. Nature has bestowed the nation with both beauty and mystery. Different cultures converge and prosper here, yet each leaves its unique mark on today's Slovenia. All these factors contribute to the nation's vitality. No matter how the world changes, this land, which bred the Slavic civilization, will grow in endless succession.